Yes, exactly. It sounds classier
Exactly.
when somebody from England swears. I don't know why.
Bugger off, would you?
Yeah, see, you're on.
Oh God,
That's what
sorry.
I'm telling you.
The
All right,
Queen's English, I
yeah,
promise.
exactly. All right, let's get that on. Let's record this. All right, we'll record this, and we should be on, and we are, and here we are. All right. All right, everybody. We have we're going to start a very special It's the Liquor Talking interview. I think that's probably the best way to do it. And it's sort of also a little bit of a product launch for here in Massachusetts from Nigel Barker, who you may recognize him from his various TV appearances. But
I think it's rather nice of you to actually go the whole hog and shave your head to
just
be
to match you
to match me on this
with
interview.
my long flowing locks
It's
that I would have to give up now. But
it's very brand aware of you, which I love,
But so listen, I know you because I have a wife and two daughters. I know you from the
It's
America's
okay. Your
Next.
secret is safe
Oh,
with
I
me.
loved it. I can't. No, no.
Gents out there, all of this, I watch it because of my wife and
No, no.
daughter's
They got
business.
me into.
Okay.
No, no, no. I will wholeheartedly say I enjoyed the show, but they got me into it. They said, come on, they started watching it. They watched it before me. I would never think to watch this, but I watched it and I got into it. And now I couldn't stop watching. I think, like, are we going to watch it now?
It's kind of addictive. It's one of those shows that is crazy addictive. I did 18 seasons of America's Next Top Model, guys. Can you believe it? I know, I haven't changed. It's okay.
Yeah, you look exactly the same.
That's why we shave our heads. If I grew it out, I look like a badger, so I shave the head so no one has any idea.
That's great.
But then I went on to do the face with Naomi Campbell.
Right.
Right. So the Naomi Campbell piece, which is interesting because I worked with her, I don't know now, 30 years ago for Chanel back in Paris at a very glamorous time. Then I did a show called The Face on NBC. And the story behind Espresso Martinis, by the way, is of a supermodel, and if legend has it, it's Naomi Campbell.
Okay.
Walked into a bar in the early 90s and asked the bartender at Harry's to make her a cocktail that would wake her up and you can't swear, can you? Mess her up. And he invented the espresso martini. That's the legend, the story behind it, right? That he sort of took an espresso shot to wake her up and took vodka to mess her up, and and with a bit of sugar and what have you, created the very first one. So it's funny because that's kind of like a little bit of English fashion provenance with the cocktail.
It's funny because I will tell you because that was sort of the same idea behind Red Bull and vodka,
right?
Only espresso martinis taste a lot better.
That is the poor man's version.
No, exactly. They taste a lot better.
We are talking about fashionable things here right now.
I think
things that taste like toothpaste. Sorry, Red Bull. You make really good racing cars.
Okay. No, they make it. Let's get it straight. It tastes like a sweet tart. Yeah, it's a candy. But
I don't deal with tarts.
There you go. But it's sort of a good thing. So you because of the way things are now with like streaming and everything like that, there's got to be people that are still watching that show.
Oh yeah.
For like the first time.
Well, for the first time. But the thing that kills me these days is that back in the day it used to be because the show started in 2003. Right?
Yeah.
It's been on for like eternity. And people will come out, oh, I love your show. Can I do a picture? Then it was like, oh my goodness, my mum loves your show.
That's when you're like, so now you start cringing.
Then now, people come up and go, oh, my nan, my grandma, she loves your show. And I'm like, piss off. Sorry. Can I? No,
yeah,
I can say that.
You can say that. Right. You're good.
English, of course, have the most polite mouths you've ever heard.
Yeah.
Anyway, so it's just like I'm like, really? But actually, to your point, even my daughter, who's 16, her friends at school are now watching the show because people can stream anything.
Yeah.
During the pandemic,
absolutely.
No one had anything better to do except watch reality television.
Right.
And so we have 24 seasons. So the show became a hit again.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's like in the annals of time. That's a very successful
it was
operation.
At its time, at its peak, season 8 to 12, we were the #1 show on a Wednesday night on prime time. We have syndicated to 156 countries around the world, and we had a global audience of 100 million people watching America's Next Top Model. And believe this, guys, we were the #1 television export out of the United States, larger than Sesame Street or Baywatch. Saying something.
Well, wait a minute, Sesame Street. I don't see. I don't see. I don't know about that.
Sorry, Grover.
Yeah, yeah.
That, we were bigger. Is what I can
That's
say.
amazing. You had your own version of Tickle Me Elmo, then we would have been probably.
That happens after the Espresso Martini.
There you go. So you have like this successful career, but I mean, people don't know also that you were also a model yourself, and that you also were a photographer.
Back when hair was in fashion.
Yes.
As soon as it went out of fashion, forget about it.
But no hair is now in fashion.
Now this is the look.
This is the look, right?
All of you guys out there, if you're looking like us, incredibly good-looking gentlemen, ridiculously good-looking, I know, you're doing it right.
We're doing it right. All right. Well, it's good to know. It's definitely streamlined. Let's put it that way.
It is aerodynamic.
But how do you now? You have like sort of like you have all these sort of like different careers. Now they've all sort of rounded around each other. You're a model. You're a photographer. You're in TV. You're all in this entertainment business. And so the question is, why would you, God's name, start doing something in the liquor business?
If you work with divas like I do, let me tell you, you need a drink.
Well, that's true. I'll give you that.
And instead of just being an amateur drinker, I thought I'd become a professional drinker.
I'm going to do it anyways. I might as well get paid for it.
Exactly. It's like anything in life, I like to do it right, and I like to do it well. So, actually created a podcast, somewhat similar to this, where we talked about all kinds of cocktails, cocktail culture. It's called the Shaken and Stirred Show. A bit of a take on the James Bond kind of idea.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. It's my mother calling. I'll get that later. And so that got us into the idea of what was hit and what was not a hit. And espresso martinis were becoming incredibly popular back when we first started it.
Right.
In fact, it was in not even. But then it wasn't even in the top 10. Cocktails. Now, we just heard last week that it's in the top 3 most served cocktails in the United States, the espresso martini. So it's sort of taking over in large part because very few cocktails have, first of all, it's sort of unseasonal. And then another thing is that how many cocktails that sort of emerge can enter in multiple different spaces. So you can have an espresso martini at brunch, alongside a mimosa or a Bloody Mary.
Right.
Because of the coffee. Right.
Yeah.
Then you mentioned vodka Red Bull, which is like the first drink of the night, right? Because you want to get yourself going. So that's another time because of the caffeine in the espresso martini. You can have this, but then again, after dinner, a lot of people when they're thinking, "Oh, should I have another cocktail? Should I have dessert? Should I have a coffee? How about I have all 3?" And the espresso martini ticks all the boxes. So for that reason, I think it's just become like wildfire.
The other part of that too is we Randall and I, who does our radio show together, it's Liquor Talking. We talk about there's certain flavors that sort of stand the test of time, right? Citrus, anise, licorice flavor because of the Mediterranean.
Other classic flavors.
Coffee, right? One of the biggest.
It's been around for millennia.
Right. And then the funny part I say is like my saying is always that you can't drink all day unless you start in the morning.
Right.
And the espresso martini fits into that palette.
Another reason to love it, people. I mean, literally, I did an interview just now, right before this, on NBC, and the host.
This one's going better, though.
This is, oh my God! First of all, I had to stand up, and this sounds fitting, which is always better. She had an espresso martini gold chain around her neck, and I was like, "Did you put that on for me?" And she was actually, "Well, no, actually, I've had it for the past sort of 2 years. It's my favorite drink." And you're like, you realize that it's sort of certain times. Remember when the Cosmo was invented sort of on Sex and the City and it became a thing?
Cosmo was actually invented in 1972.
That's the year I was born.
It's been a while, but
I don't mean invented, you're right.
But popularity. No, I'm getting, that's what I mean. Like, I didn't realize it was, I thought, it's like some of these drinks you think they've been around forever.
Right.
And not that 1972 was forever. I was born in 66, so I'm a little older. But that whole thing is like, you think that sometimes these drinks have been around forever, well, they're actually not. They're relatively new to the marketplace. And the popularity of espresso martinis and coffee drinks and stuff like that, it seems relatively new, but they've been around for a while.
Well, I mean, cocktails themselves have only really been around for about 300-400 years, which, okay, that sounds like a very long time. But alcohol, you can trace alcohol back almost 6,000 years. So
Right.
way before you can trace food back.
Right.
There's proof of alcohol in large part because alcohol is a preservative. So it preserves itself, whereas a food would disintegrate and it's hard to find. But when they have found like pharaohs' tombs and various sort of catacombs, where people have been buried, they're often buried with their favorite things. And they've found in China, for example, earthenware pots, which have the very first sort of elements of alcohol where they could tell they were making a rice wine.
Right.
And it's thousands of years ago. So you know that the sort of history, the culture, I mean, for goodness sakes, Jesus was turning water into wine. It's biblical.
It's a good guy to have at a party, I'll tell you that.
I know, right? Well, hey, I love that. Yeah, exactly. I'm not going to leave that. That's great. That was a mic drop moment right there. That's great.
No, okay. So the espresso martini now is sort of it's hot. Let's face
it. Is hot.
It's hot. But the problem with I find with
that's a line from Zoolander, by the way.
Oh, is that great? Yeah. All right, great. I'm quoting Zoolander now. But the thing is that if you go into almost any place, they all have this sort of like take on an espresso martini.
Absolutely.
And I seen you have a couple different things that you're doing sort of different. So let's dive into like what you're doing with an Barker company. And I always, by the way, I know your last name is Barker, but when I see it on the packaging, and I'm thinking of like a carnival barker that is getting your attention.
Well, that's
right.
My family was a long line of those people. So
really,
so the Barker, the name itself, you can be a couple of things.
Okay,
you can be someone who,
right.
back in the day, that would take bark off trees and use the bark to dye leather. Okay. So they were tanners originally, and they would take bark off certain trees. They were called barkers. But the main one is a town crier, right? So that's someone that would walk in with a bell into the middle of a town, ring the bell, and basically deliver the news. They were the original anchors, sort of news anchors.
Right.
So they would bark the news. And they would said, and that was where it comes from. My family, there's a long line of them. So it's actually kind of ironic that I ended up on television because clearly,
exactly, you're still doing the same thing.
It's
been thousands of years, and you're still doing the same thing.
I know. I wonder if they were.
But it's a family business.
It's a family business. So we spent 2 years in the end. I thought it was going to take me 6 months to make this espresso martini.
Yeah, everybody always thinks that.
I know. I was so naive. Clearly, had no idea what I was talking about. But it was partly because in order to do it right. It's one thing to make a cocktail and serve it to someone immediately. It's another complete thing to say, I'm going to make this cocktail. It's going to hopefully taste fantastic if you open it next month or in 2 months. And how do you make it shelf stable? And how do you, so all the things that me and my partner hadn't really thought through. And yet we had a great 6 months figuring out, okay, let's taste every espresso martini in the world and think which one was our favorite.
Right.
And then try and kind of replicate it and put it in a bottle for you.
And the other thing you can't do, and which is sort of part of this, the other thing you can't do is once it's out of your hands and somebody buys it, you don't know how they're preparing it.
What they're going to do.
So you have to sort of take that in consideration. You have to make it, as we say, foolproof.
Foolproof, which we try as hard as we are. I literally, at this point, walk around with the cocktail shaker in my pocket, and I'm not just happy to see you. You can only
Those can make some good stories, too,
and if you've seen the size of my cocktail shaker.
I'm going to leave that alone.
Exactly. So guys, just as well as a video alongside this podcast, so you can really see what we're talking about here.
This is instead of shake and bake, this is a shake and barker.
Right. So I'm shaking this cocktail right now. All I did was pour it over ice. This helps dilute it and aerate it, which is what you really want to do on any good cocktail. And now you pour it in. Now it's 100% Colombian espresso coffee. We use an Arabica bean.
Okay.
6-time distilled vodka we do ourselves in Lansdale, Pennsylvania, and caramelized brown sugar. It is all natural. It's gluten-free, and let's see, it pours out. When you see it, for those of you just listening in, it comes out. You know how a Guinness has that kind of milky look?
Yes,
that's
it does.
what it looks
definitely
like.
Does. And here's the test.
And here's the test. So it is the 3 coffee beans on top for health, wealth, and happiness, people.
Nice.
Now, there is another story, by the way. The Italians have one, which is one is for the police officer, the informer, and the watch out, which I think is far better. And I love the fact the Italians would be,
part of that is also when I was a kid, it was always religious. Because you do the same, you float the same 3 beans in, let's say, Sambuca.
Right.
And it's supposed to be the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost.
The Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost.
And I just mentioned Jesus earlier, so it all fits in.
It is.
See how everything wraps up?
I bless you with this espresso.
Thank you very much. I will say,
how does that look?
fantastic.
Well, that's
It looks
so
fantastic.
you know me. I'm in from fashion.
That's right.
Looks better.
Yep.
So the drink had to look right. It had to look like it would be delivered out of a bar, right? But on top of that, I wanted the bottle to look good. So we designed this ourselves.
Yep.
In my entire team, it's meant to look iconic and what have you. The bottle is from Florence. So we
Okay.
fly this in from Italy. It's a 97% UV proof bottle. So the
Because that's going to be
presentation-
your biggest enemy is light and heat, right?
Absolutely.
Right.
So it's especially when you're dealing with something like coffee, or cream, that they, the light and the heat, all of that affects it. But with RTDs, the word itself is like a dirty word in the liquor business. People are like, oh God, that can't be good. That's
Number two
Yep.
consumed is RTDs.
Exactly.
Vodka is still number one.
No, absolutely.
But
So,
RTDs is up there.
100%. It's absolutely people, but it's sort of like within the biz. If you speak to a mixologist or anyone who kind of knows, they'll like roll their eyes, be like, oh, another RTD.
What I'm going to tell you right now, we've been noticing, this is the sort of the good part about being in the business is we've been noticing the jump in quality
Right.
of RTDs. And, when I was a kid, it
That's
was like
because of my podcast, by the way.
Very good. Thank you very much.
You can all
Oh,
thank me for that.
Oh, thank you. But I mean, what was an RTD? Way back in the day, you had like Tango. You had all these things that were just terrible. They were so bad, and even right up until probably recently, over probably the last like 4 or 5 years, they were okay, but they were not a substitute for going to a bar and having a mixologist make you a drink. Now you're starting to see things like yours, where they're
really?
like, now it has to be top notch. It has to be consistent. And that's the biggest thing.
Consistency is
huge.
And which is where RTDs often they work. But the problem with the consistency is if it's consistently tastes weird or has artificial flavor, most of the guys who are on the market who use espresso martini, who do an espresso martini, they either don't produce a head. They don't actually have any coffee in them. They just have a coffee
Flavoring. Yeah, that's the worst thing.
And so,
if you see natural flavoring, you're in trouble too, by the way.
so I'm going to give this a good shake.
Yeah, good.
Right now,
can I try this?
Please try it.
Because I'm dying to try this.
Try it. I'm making you a cappuccino too.
It's one of those type of things that, just look at it, looks great. Okay. I know you're sitting here, but if most people know that I am brutally honest, Nick is in the audience.
Our audience of one agrees.
All of us at once. Well, he knows me for too long. It's a really good.
Thank you.
And it is really good. And if you can do this every single time, coming out of the bottle
or a can or a box, by the way.
Okay, so I'm going to give you a little bit of things. So the one you did in the bottle is an RTD, ready to drink.
Ready to drink,
right?
Yes.
And the good part about this, it's not truly ready to drink because you made it a little bit stronger to stand up to the ice. So when you shake it, it comes out perfect.
So we actually don't call it ready to drink. We call it ready to serve. So, but you're 100% right. In theory, ours, the way we designed it was that you would still have to have that one step of putting it on ice.
I'm super lazy, and I can just get by that one step.
Yeah,
one step I can do.
But people still take our cans, chill them, and drink them, and love them. And actually, it's one of our top-selling SKUs after the bottle. So whatever it is, it's like, yeah.
I'd like you to drink it, please. I don't really care how.
Exactly.
It's still going to taste good, right?
And people still love it. So this is the cap. We can do a little swap so you can taste that one too.
I want to taste this one too.
This is the cappuccino. Yeah, Wisconsin dairy we added to it. This is 32 proof.
It's beautiful.
So
nice color.
Our cappuccino is 32 proof. Our espresso is 40 proof. So they are real cocktails. But this is brand new to the market.
First of all, I'm a sucker for cappuccino. If I go out and I'm sorry, all my Italian relatives, but if it's at night, I'll still order a cappuccino because I have to drive home.
Right. And because you like a creamy drink.
That's fine. This is really good too. They're both fantastic. And what I was getting to, what I like is the glass is the RTD, but you have cans and then you have this gigantic, how many drinks it'll make? 18 drink thing. That's an RTG ready to go. Because you can take the can. What's great about cans and Tetra Paks and all that type of stuff is you can take them anywhere.
Yeah.
You can take them to the beach. You can take them to a tennis match. You can take them to a pool, on the
100%.
boat. All of this stuff because you don't have to worry about glass. The only glass you have is if you're pouring them into, and there's ways around that. Trust me, I know my friends. There's ways around that. So, that's the versatility of you actually. I don't think I've ever seen somebody come out with different packaging the way you have
For launch, I know. So
for a launch.
what my partner is a guy called Philippe Roderer, and he's a spirits aficionado. He's one of the guys who launched Vive Clicquot in the United States. He was one of the founders and CEO of Voss Water. He has a great sort of history and background in the industry. So he was one of the guys who understood the multitude of ways that we should approach the market and how many SKUs we should do it for. So it was, we had the can for the grab and go,
Right.
you know, we would want to have the 700 that could rival any other 700 on a shelf that would look good on the shelf.
Okay.
Right. And then the 375, that's like a really fun gift and great for hotels and all that kind of stuff. But then what happened was we had no idea how successful we would be so quickly, and the demand. And people were saying, we wanted it in a keg. We want to put it on nitro. We wanted it. And I'm like, what is happening? This is an espresso martini. You're meant to make it like this.
Yes. It's only this big.
And they're like, and now you want it in a keg? I'm
right.
like, and so we were like, well, what's the biggest one we can legally make? And it was the 1.75. And thought, well, if we put it in a box, like sort of boxed wine, it's not aesthetically perhaps as pleasing, but the price point was really low because you don't have the expensive glass.
In the glass.
Super easy to transport. And, so it actually retails at like 59 cents an ounce, which is sort of ridiculously cheap for a lot of people. And therefore, I'm like, you guys, this is something where you can take this anywhere. So your can is a grab and go and you have that on a boat. But how about you take the box and then you have a drink for the entire boat?
Well, also the way that bag, the way the bag in a box works is you're also it's collapsing on itself, so there's no air. So you keep that freshness. So even if you put it in the refrigerator and you're pouring out of the refrigerator, let's say, that's what those just in case everybody's wondering, in the refrigerator, on the door you have those side shells. That's what they're for. So everybody forgets that they're for like your cold drinks, but that you could actually keep this in the refrigerator and have.
100%.
One drink a week.
Oh, by the way, you can create the head that I've produced on this espresso martini without ice. Right. So if you do a dry shake, which is, for those of you who don't know, is when you shake without ice, it's called a dry shake. You can still create a fabulous head because it still get the aeration.
Okay.
Right. You don't get the dilution.
Is that because of the sugar that you use? Is that where that head's coming from?
No, it actually comes from the oils in the coffee.
Ah, nice.
Right. So the oils in the coffee. So whenever you've made an espresso shot, you'll see it has a white head on an espresso shot. That's that crema head that the coffee produces. Now, the balance and getting that head right was actually by adding a certain amount of saline solution. And I'm giving away all my clues here. But
there's no one listening.
There's a little chemistry behind this, okay, guys. But if for those mixologists and bartenders out there, saline is often a help. And what it does is it'll take away the bitterness of coffee too.
Okay.
But it changes the pH. So when you put caramelized brown sugar, and again, I'm probably getting way too technical, but for those of you who love this sort of information.
No, everybody loves it.
Caramelized,
no, they do.
Caramelized brown sugar actually has a pH of around 2.4, the one we use. Sugar in general has a low pH.
Right.
That means it's acidic, right? So low pH, acidic. The problem with acidity is that it makes the coffee curdle and sour, and it also takes away the head. But if you take the actual pH back up to 7, or close to, you start to create a bigger and more firm and more stable head. And it also balances the oils. It breaks them down. So by actually using a saline solution, we actually correct the pH and bring it to, and that when we figured that out, oh my goodness, that was like the biggest eureka moment. And I got to say, we weren't geniuses like me. I'm talking like I'm the scientist working in a lab. I worked with people who knew what they were talking about.
That's right.
I was like, I want it to look like that.
Right.
And then, don't call me until you fixed it. And they said, yeah. But it was amazing when it came together.
Listen, both drinks, fabulous. This is brand new to the market.
Yep.
So keep an eye on for it. We'll have it here at Julio's.
And by the way, I'm in every bottle actually. So what you do is you just rub the bottle 3 times, and you make a wish, and I promise you I will be there.
But the problem is you have to drink everything inside the bottle for that to happen.
Especially with the box.
The box.
By yourself.
I don't think you're going to make it that way. Listen, the one thing I'm going to say to you right now is I love the product. Product tastes great. I think everybody should try it. We're going to carry it here. So we'll set up tastings looking over at my
Fabulous.
supplier.
I
We'll
know.
set up tastings for people to try because it's always liquid to lips.
It is.
You know, that's the best way to sell something is liquid to lips, but it's really great. The other thing that I'm going to say to you, Nigel, is that I really love that you came in here today to talk about it and taste your product. We did this blind, by the way. This is the first time I'm tasting this product.
Me
He said,
too.
sure, I have
I've
no problem.
Never tasted it before either. But
That I believe.
I'm actually
No,
also from Detroit,
That's
8
right.
Mile. But I was told that having an English accent was fantastic
gives you
television.
credibility.
Absolutely. You know.
But you know that's taking a chance. That also means that you really are standing by your product. The other thing I would say in a sea of, and we see it every week, in a sea of celebrity products that come out, it's always refreshing to see somebody who knows their product, that has worked with it, has actually done the research, has done everything. So when they come out, they are a part of this. And you know, I know you were joking about rubbing the bottle 3 times and you're there. You're in the bottle. You are in the bottle, because every time somebody drinks this, they're actually drinking you and your partner's hard work and dedication to make this happen. And kudos to you, because that's fantastic.
The bit I didn't mention was that if you add $1 million, that I'm really there. Sorry. Just wanted to add
So
that.
next time when I want him live, I have to pay $1 million.
There is that caveat.
You
But
will
I
do
promise
private
you,
parties.
I will. I
You will
can.
do
I
private
can pop out of a cake if needed.
if needed be.
If needed.
Well, we'll schedule that for next time. I want to thank you so
My
much for coming
pleasure.
in and showing
Thank
this.
you.
This was
Thank
really,
you.
really
Excited.
great. And we're excited to see it. The Barker Company Espresso Martini and Cappuccino
And cappuccino.
in a variety of sizes and ways to enjoy. I wish you the best of luck. And if the flavor has anything to do with it, you're going to be very successful with this. Thank you so much.
Cheers.
I really appreciate it.
Appreciate
Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. You should have been here because this is delicious. If you happen to be here, I would have served you some, or Nigel better would have served you some.
I would have did.
But thank you, everybody, for joining us. You can see this on It's the Liquor Talking on a podcast if you're watching this on Facebook right now. But check it out. If you're having insomnia, it's a great cure. We'll see you later. All right. We'll stop that, and we'll stop the other part of this. Oh, come on. I'm so professional here.